Good morning, our presenter and participant. Welcome to the Virtual Viet Zone International Convention 2020. On behalf of organizing committee, we would like to thank you so much for your participation and your contribution for our convention success. We are Phạm Thị Tài and Giang Thị Trang are as presentation moderator. We are absolutely happy to see all of you in line of virtual present today, especially in this. We highly hope that all of you will be able to have some valuable knowledge and experience from the following talk. Before the presentation, there are a few considerations. In case you have any question or concern about the presentation, please feel free to leave them in the chat box so that we can gather the question for easy response in the Q&A session. We gladly welcome Ms. Nhạ Vũ in the 30 minutes oral presentation, what is entitled Teaching Grammar to Young Learner in Vietnam, Structural or Functional. About our presenter, Nhạ Vũ is the Dean of the Faculty of English, Vietnam National University. She has obtained her doctoral degree at the University of New South Wales, Australia in 2014. Her research interests include project-based learning, educational change, and classroom-based research. Currently, Nhạ focuses on teaching development and CLIL courses for high school and university students in Vietnam. Okay, Ms. Nhạ, we would like to invite you to start your presentation, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Dai, for very nice and pleasant presentation. Introduction. So I can see that there are like less than a few participants here, and maybe they are still like somewhere navigating to the how to say the virtual conference, and I would like to take it a very formal way of talking about grammar, and I'm not quite sure if it, can you see my slide or not?
Yeah, we can see it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the reason that I put this presentation up just because like from my experience, I work as a researcher and materials developer and also a teacher. And at home, I also have two kids. And whenever I go and whenever I do, and people raise a question like, should we teach grammar? And like now I have my younger daughter is 8 years old, and like some of my friends just asking like, should we teach grammar to them now they are young and small? And that kind of question put me into a situation that I have to think about that. And if you are a teacher, of course, teaching grammar is the things that you do everyday life. But for me, sometimes I still have to stop a little bit and say, should we do it or not? And if yes, how can we do it in effective ways? I would like to start with some of the thinking and to see if you agree or disagree with me. And it's okay as well, because this kind of things is not from me. It is from other people as well. Can you see the chat box? And if you see the chat box, you can type in the chat box to show your opinions or what you think about the statement in here. So young learners do not need to study grammar. If you think you agree, you put A, 1A, or if you don't agree, put like a 1D. Can you manage to the Zoom session or Zoom chat or not? Okay. Yeah, I can see Khánh Bùi, you say D. Okay, thank you. And number 2, yeah, young learners study grammar and vocabulary at the same time. So it's agree or disagree. Yeah, so I can see some of you and put the content up here. And number 3 is young learners don't always need words to show their understanding. Yeah, it is number 3. Yeah, so Chang, you go with A, and Tai, you also go with A. I think I just go a little bit slowly in here so that you can have some kind of set up or choose your position in terms of grammar teaching. And number 4 is young learners can understand grammar concepts. Yeah, again here you say, no, they cannot understand grammar concept. Okay, or neither. uh, yeah, so Khánh will say neither. And number 5, most young learners can read and write. It's number 5. Okay, so agree. Okay, great. So you can see that like even with a small group of like teachers or participants in here, we are all diverse in thinking about grammar. And I hope that my presentation will give you some information so that number 1, you can reconfirm your position, or number 2, it is a kind of food for thought for you to reflect on your everyday teaching practices. And I will look at like the definition of grammar, and like the reason that we have to teach grammar, and we look at the way that young learners learn, and we also look at the final part. It is how is grammar taught. And as I said earlier, I myself had different roles as a teacher and also as a researcher. So sometimes I work with very theoretical like aspect of grammar, but sometimes I have to go with something very concrete activities or exercise. And this is like the definition that maybe some of you know this person as well. It's Penny and she wrote the book Grammar for University Grammar, and many other grammar books. And here is her definition. Grammar may be roughly defined as a way that language manipulates and combines words in order to form longer units of meaning. So if you think that grammar is meaningless, it is not, because a grammar is necessary for you to form longer units of meaning. It could be like the whole idea, it could be the discourse or how I say or a paragraph. And when she also looked at a learner who knows grammar is a person who has a master and can apply these rules to express him or herself in what would be considered as acceptable language forms. So not only remember the rules, but also they have to know how to apply these rules. That is like we can say that that person knows grammar. So maybe your students can be like the group that know the rules but cannot apply the rules, or maybe the group that can apply the rules but they do not know how to explicitly explain the rules. Um, and when we talk about structural grammar, and it was very popular like a decades ago, and we talk about like the structure, how we structure a sentence and different parts of a sentence, like phonemes, morphemes, syntactic relation, and they analyze, describe and analyze the language at sentence form. And this is an example, and I got it from one of the books by Oxford. And it is an example of how structural grammar is presented in exercise for the students. So they start with like presenting the rules, about the present simple in here. And then they get into the practice. And the practice here can go from easy to more complex. And the purpose of this kind of thing is like to help the students to know the rules, to apply the rules. And then the last section, it is in D. In here, the student can apply the rules to write a full sentence. But what you can see in here is we do not look at the, they do not look at the context, and they do not like how to put these sentences into the order that makes sense as a conversation. They say names, I'm Paolo, and this is a Federico, and nationality, you say we are from Italy. But we do not see like the turns or how the people are interacting. So this is an example of structural grammar. And another example, we talk about functional grammar. So functional grammar is the theory that look at grammars in different ways. It is not looking at as a set of different parts to make meanings. And as a definition in here, like a functional grammar broadens its purview beyond these structural phenomena, and hence its theoretical outlook is distinctive. It analyzes the entire communicative situation. So it is a situation and is it for communication. And we look at the purpose, the participant, or the discourse context. And as you can see in mm, the, the picture, I also take it from the textbook. And in this picture, they present grammar, but it is embedded in the activities like listen and find and sing, and then listen and tick or cross, and then play. And the students, they play the Q&A, the Q&A game, and or the game that number 2 is got 4 legs, and the structure and the grammar here is for has got. And then the other person say yes or no, or also another structure is thin. That means to describe an animal with the adjective. And we do not see the way that they state the rules. And as we mentioned earlier, so when we teach the student grammars, it is not only rules, but it has other aspects as well. And this is a recommendation of the framework by Larsen-Freeman in 2001. So I mean, when we teach a student grammar, we have to look at the 3 aspects. Form, how is it formed? And meaning, what does it mean? And the use, when and why is it used? For example, here the form is the possessive. And we look at the form in writing, and we also look at the form in sound. And the meaning here, possession, description, amount, or the relationship, part or whole, right? And we have to explain when we put that kind of form in, what does it mean? Like a mother's hat. So mother is different, but mothers means possessive in there. And what does it mean? We have to explain that to the student. And also we look into the use, how we can put that in the actual use of language. And another author also look at like, okay, so grammar is for meaning making. It is not grammar for its own sake. So how can we look at grammar in different types of skill? And they look at like this one is also go back with Pena, and she looks at like we can look at the forms and the meanings of a grammar structure in 4 different skills, and our focus and our meanings may be different. It's like for listening and reading, it is a perception and recognition. That means to know and recognize. And the spoken or the written form of the structure, and the meaning here is we have to understand. So when the child look at mothers, they have to understand that something like we talk about possession of the mother is not mother. It's different from the noun mother. And for speaking and writing, the grammar, the form that we need here is a production of well-formed example in speech or well-formed example of writing. So it means that when it goes into speaking and writing, they also have to produce well-formed. It is not like a mistakes in here, but well-formed. And it means that they can use what the structure and the rule to make that kind of grammatical structure to convey the meaning that they want. Um, and also another thing that they talk about grammar is like we cannot teach grammar as what the theorists say or what is in the book of grammar say, because that is everything. But Darrell Carr in 2019, she proposed a concept that is a pedagogical grammar. So it is just a part of the grammar knowledge, but it is not everything, and it should be suitable for the learners. And the pedagogical grammar here is used for teaching and learning. And it is very important that it is responsive to the needs of classroom practice. And we have to consider the learners, and we also have to consider the institutional factors that we select the point that we can teach. We cannot teach all the points that the grammar structure require, but we just select. And also important thing here is when we talk about pedagogical grammar, it is very much relevant to the beliefs of teachers. So that means if the teachers beliefs of grammar or of functional grammar or of structural grammar, or like of the needs that the student have to know everything. So that means in the classroom, she will teach everything. Yeah, if the teacher say, okay, at this point for this task, the student just know, okay, this and this, and then the grammar lesson will be very different from others grammar lesson, even though they are talking about the same grammar point. So the reason that we need to teach grammar, I try to be very brief in here. There are only 2 words in here: comprehensibility and acceptability. So comprehensibility for conversation and the learners understand and make comprehensible messages. So that's why many people just say, okay, I don't need the correct sentences as long as you can convey the meaning. Yeah, so that goes into the first part, comprehensibility, but it is not enough. Another thing that we need the students to learn grammar, because the learners are accepted to an English speaker of group. I think, for example, if it is just a conversation in the street and to ask for information, um, it doesn't matter like if you make mistake or the grammars or the things that you do not put in the order, it's okay as long as you can ask the direction or you can go shopping or buy things, and words are enough. But if you are in the classroom, or if you are in like a larger context group, and you need to present and to like the educated groups of speakers, or to the school context, or to the formal context, so the grammar is important in here in that sense. So we have a talk about like what grammar means, and why we have to teach grammar. And now I will look into different ways that grammar are recommended to be taught. And first, I look at like the learner groups. Because I specify into the young learners, I do not look at learners as different groups. So with young learners, how do they learn? For Moon, she say, for young learners, we learn in a very active way. They need to use a language creativity. So that means even when we teach them the rules, or even we haven't taught them the rules, but they know how to invent and use the language in a very creative ways. And they focus on meaning. They seek for the meaning, and they have the habits of using as strong of language. And that's why the kids often have some kind of like how to say, the rhyme or song, or yeah, and they like having fun, and they like join in the action. That means they learn, but they do not look just at the words or doing the written test. They want the action, and they have the feeling of at home. And at home, that means they feel comfortable to talk, to communicate. So if we give them something that they don't know, something that unfamiliar to them, so maybe they just do not have the feeling of at home. And the young learner groups, um, we look at like three groups. Actually, there are three groups, and the very young learners are learners in kindergarten, and maybe they just don't know how to read or write, and some of that like even how to speak at some points. But for the stage one in primary, like in year one and year two, the student at this time, they can express their ideas in speaking freely, more freely, but they do not know how to read or write fluently. And at this stage, the activities that we use need to take into like a consideration of their ability to read and to write. But for stage two, the primary from year 3 and 5, the students here can be competent in terms of reading and writing in their mother tongue, and start to learn how to write. So we have a more freedom to introduce activities to them. So when we look at the Vietnamese curriculum, and they state these kind of like grammar points for the participants at this age. So yeah, quite a lot for me. Like the communicative needs at level 1 on IU1 in CEFR level, and we can look at this, and we have a clause or tense or modal verbs and nouns and number and preposition and articles or connectors. Those are the grammar points that they expect the young learners or the primary student to learn. So it comes to the point that um, we agree that the young learners, they can learn grammars, and they have to meet the requirements of the curriculum. So that's why the question like whether or not we should teach young learners grammar is not a questionable in here. That means we do have to teach them, but it raises into the question of like how we should teach them. for Larsen-Freeman, she proposed that we with propose the steps to use of functional grammars. That means we introduce the student in communicative situation, and in here there's some situation that like a listening or reading, we take the inputs in, and some other situation like we speak or we write, it is like for output production. And she recommends some of the activities or of the techniques that we can do to teach the students grammar, like enhancing the inputs. Enhancing the inputs, that means you put a lot of example about the grammar structure that we need to uh, we need to okay, we need to the students to learn. And also the other thing here is like input flooding is a similar thing. That means they put a lot of like examples for the students to learn. On the garden part, the garden part is like we discover or we know the irregular features of the grammar before you get into the regular one. For example, in past simple, the students will learn past simple verbs, irregular form of past simple verb, and get used to them before they can learn the regular, and with all the rules about like a ed form. And consciousness raising task, it is a kind of like sometimes we need to give them like the activities that if you go into another workshop by Maria Perez, and she talk about different ways that we can engage the learners into the activities like the sentence pairs or the timelines or highlights or guided discovery. And for outputs in here, they would have like a meaningful practice. It is not like the practice that I mentioned earlier for the structural grammar. That means no context, no situation, no participant, but the meaningful practice is like in terms of a conversation or in terms of a game or in terms of like a task that they have to do. And in that kind of task, they use the structure again and again. And we can use some Braille or picture related tasks to give example to them. And the last activity is like a role play that can give the students a lot of like opportunities to use the target structure in a more in a freer way. And another set of procedures to teach grammar here recommended by her is like we start with a presentation of the rules of the language, and then we isolate, we do the isolation and explanation more about the structure, and then we give practice. And one thing that is different from that is a production. And production here could be like a task that the student have to do. And if you reflect on different types of activities that the learners in some of the book, and I think that they follow this kind of flow. So the presentation, some kind of inputs, and then they explain the rules in a box, and then they have some kind of practice on that. And the last part is a production and the task that they need to use things. So to illustrate the points that I have said, and in here is an example lesson plan. And for this, the target language I've got, and it is the topic about body parts, and the target is for year 2, and the times for the whole lesson is 35 minutes. And the flow of the activities like draw and read, or listen and find and sing, listen and take. And one more thing, just I would suggest the teachers, and from my own observation and from the experience of other teachers, is that we have some part that we provide some structure explanation, because all the books for the young learners, they focus on like just activities and activities, and then sometimes the teachers are too busy to have some activities that help the learners to notice the structure. And the step that I would recommend in here is like you add into one more step in here, like for structure explanation. That means it is a combination of both functional and also structural. And of course, the functional are the most important part, but the structural is a small part and very necessary for the teacher for the learners to notice the grammar structure, and they can remember the rules. And another activities that I recommend in here, and like it is a combination of both functional and structural, and it's like we use the hands and also to have the student to describe the body parts, and also have them to learn the structure I have got, and with numbers a lot, like they have to use a lot of like numbers, and and when they say the word, when they say each word, and the student have to use a hand gesture so that they remember, and they know that the sentence will have 5 different words, and then can help them to remember and also to do action at the same time. And yeah, so it is a way that we have them both to communicate and also to be aware of the language or the grammar points that they are learning.
Hi,
So
Miss Vu. Yeah.
yeah,
So is
I
this
get
for Q&A session? Is that okay?
I get to the last point. Yeah, you
Yeah.
can do
Yeah.
that. And
Okay.
also
Yeah.
you can ask the questions if you have any. So thank you very much.
Yeah. So we would like to share our big thanks to your great presentation, and thank you for your listening participant. Now we are very happy to receive all your question now. Thank you.
I think that I'm more interested in listening to like your view or what you are doing in the classroom more than like just giving me the question. Yeah. So in any way, so because we have a small group of participants, so I hope that we can do that.
Yes, of course. Now, participant, if you have any question or if you want to share your view, you can share your opinion now. Thank you.
So I would like to invite Chan or Chan Faki in here. Would you like to share your thought or not?
Excuse me, Miss Nhã Nguyễn. As a participant, can I have a say something that I am really interested in your topic because nowadays when we teach grammar for young learner is not really easy because not only grammar but we should combine grammar and speaking skill and a lot of things how to create fun in grammar class. Yeah, so after listening to your part, I think that I have some new idea to create my class for my children or maybe other younger student. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Yep. Thank you, Tai and Chan.
Okay, thank you so much for your presentation. Okay, I just have one question.
Yep.
What are the difficulties you encounter when teaching grammars to the Vietnamese student, young Vietnamese student, and how do you solve those problems or difficulties? Thank you.
We have a lot of difficulties. We have a lot of difficulties. The thing is, I think if you are a teacher, you reflect that the student learn grammar and then today and tomorrow they forget. Is that right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sometimes that the teacher question themselves that kind of thing, like they are the thing that they are doing are not good, but it is not. It is the nature of learning, and like to learn a grammar point or the grammar structure, it is not like a thing of 1 day or 2 day. So it is a process. So maybe at the first contact, the student understand the meaning of that grammar point, but in order to have them to master the grammar point, they need a lot more practice. So we need consistent, and also we need patience to give them more practice so that they can really master and apply the grammar point.
So since they are very young learners, so they are studying, I think, two languages at the same time. They might be confused between Vietnamese language grammars and English grammar. So what kind of practices would you provide them to get them learn English grammar? Not, or to have them distinguish between Vietnamese language
Yeah.
grammars and English grammar?
Yeah, I see your point. It's the thing is a Vietnamese language is very different from English language. Vietnamese language, we do not like a change the word when we put the words into use. That means when the student learn the word and then like the words like that, even in the speaking form or in the written form, yeah, it's like that. Yeah, but in English, like we change the forms of the words in different contexts of use. So that kind of things that we need to explain to the student. And I think have to give a lot of example, and it take a process, a long process to do so. And also another thing is like the concept of countable or non-count. And even the young learners, they can have like the feeling of the concept, or maybe they don't really master the concept, but they have a feeling of that. Yeah, for example, at first we can tell them like orange. So we can say an orange, two oranges, and they can count. And when we give them water, and they cannot say one water or two water, and they have to say a bottle of water, and we explain that it is non-count. So in a way that they have some sense of that already. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Miss Nia and Mr. Jiang. Due to the limited time, so any question of you can be sent to the presenter directly for further discussion. Okay?
Yep.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.